All right, let's dive into one of the trickiest and most interesting parts of English, the past tense. It's this whole world of verbs that follow the rules perfectly and others that are just total rebels. We're going to break it all down. Who follows the law, who kind of bends it, and who just throws the rule book out the window.
It really all starts with a question you've probably asked yourself a million times. Why is English so weird sometimes, right? Why do some words line up perfectly while others seem to be playing by their own rules entirely? Well, that's exactly what we're going to get into, the story of order versus chaos in the English past tense. And look, sometimes it's just beautifully simple. The bird picked an apple. Done. The action happened in the past, and the verb tells you that with zero fuss. This is our starting point, the nice, easy rule-following part of the language. So, let's start with the law of the land, the main rule. For the vast majority of verbs in English, all you have to do to show something already happened is stick an ed on the end. Simple as that. These are the rule followers, the reliable backbone of the past tense. And just think about how often you use these. You've got pick, which becomes picked, laugh becomes laughed, start becomes started. See, they're predictable, they're reliable, and they really set the foundation for everything else. But of course, it's not always that simple, is it? Some verbs, well, they need a little tweak before they can join the ED club. But don't think of these as rule breakers. Think of them more like verbs that just have to fill out a tiny bit of extra paperwork. Okay, so here's our first little tweak. If a verb already ends in a silent E, like smile or hike, we don't just tack on another E and D. That would just look clunky. Instead, you just drop that final E and then add your ED. So smile becomes smiled and poke becomes poked. Easy enough? Next up is the doubling rule. For short little verbs like clap or pat, the ones with a short vowel sound followed by one consonant, we double that last letter. So clap becomes clapped. And this little trick, it's not random. It actually helps us keep that short vowel sound when we say the word out loud. Now, let's talk about the letter Y. Oh, the letter Y. When it comes to the past tense, this letter basically has a split personality, and how it behaves depends entirely on the company it keeps, specifically the letter that comes right before it. So here are the two faces of Y. On one hand, if a consonant comes before the Y, like in cry or try, the Y gets a makeover. It changes to an I before you add ed. But if there's a vowel right before it, like in play or stay, the Y gets to stay put. You just add ed and you're good to go. Two simple rules for one tricky letter. Okay, we've covered the law-abiding citizens. We've talked about the ones who make a few small adjustments. But what about the others? What about the verbs that look at that nice, neat ed rule and just walk in the opposite direction? And this, my friends, is where things get really interesting. It's time to meet the irregular rebels of the English language. These verbs don't follow the ed rule at all. Nope, they've got their own unique past tense forms that you pretty much just have to memorize. And here's a look at the whole crew, a real who's who of rebellious verbs. You see, they don't just get a little spelling tweak, they transform completely. A lot of these are actually super old verbs, leftovers from Old English, that have held on to their original forms for centuries. So they're not just variations, they're like little pieces of living history. Now that big list might seem intimidating, so let's just focus on the rock stars, the ones you use every single day. You don't say goed, you say went. You don't say eated, you say ate. See becomes saw, take becomes took. These are the core rebels you'll run into constantly. But even among all these rebels, there is one that stands completely alone. One verb, so irregular, so unique, that it's in a category all by itself. Which brings us to the ultimate exception, the final boss of past tense verbs. The most notorious rebel of them all is, of course, the verb to be. Yeah, even our source material is throwing up a big watch out sign here, and for good reason. This verb is so special because it doesn't just have one past tense form. It has two, and the one you use totally depends on the subject of your sentence. And here they are. For subjects like I, he, she, or it, the past tense is was. But for we, you, and they, it's were. It is the only verb in the entire English language that changes its past tense form like this, a true one of a kind. So, what have we really seen today? We've gone on a whole journey, haven't we? We started in the simple, predictable world of just adding ed, worked our way through some minor spelling tweaks, and then dove headfirst into the chaotic realm of irregular rebels, ending with the ultimate exception to be. It's a perfect example of how language is this amazing mix of both strict rules and wild exceptions. And that kind of leaves us with a fun question to think about. Language is always changing, always evolving. So if you had the power to create one new rule for the English past tense, maybe to make things simpler or just more interesting, what would it be? I'd love to know what you think.